All right, we are live. Well, welcome. I'm excited to have a very good friend on this Google Hangout, this podcast, this interview. This is an individual that I was introduced to several years ago, and you run across some smart people in your days. Sarah's one of the most intelligent individuals that I've met. She is passionate about health and wellness. She's an athlete. She was a collegiate athlete. She's currently growing a child within her with her awesome guy. And she is one of the most remarkable people when it comes to nutrition. And one of the things that she and I both are very passionate about is that if all we did was helped people get around a dinner table and have nutritionally dense foods, good stuff for their bodies and their minds, and just listening to one another, talking and having a good time, then we've done some amazing things. And so I'm really excited to have Sara here. Now, she lives in the boondocks, just so you know. Anybody who comes out to Idaho, if you knew where Sara lived, she's up in the hills, which is super cool. She drives in to do her thing on a daily basis, but she gets to go back home to solitude, to animals, and I'm going to let her share a lot about what she's doing with her urban farm there. So that being said, being in the boondocks doesn't always give you a great connection as far as being able to see her. So we've got audio. She's got an amazing presentation for you today. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you Miss Sara Jane. And here she is. All right, Sara, can you see that okay?
Yes, I can.
All right. This is my friend Sara. Now, Sara is, as you can see, I mean, what type of a person puts food into their actual, their header, in Facebook? I do, maybe you do. Sara certainly does. So one of the things that's great about Sara, just so you guys can be clear, is Sara received her Bachelor of Science in Nutrition Science from California Polytechnic State University. I think I said that right. San Luis Obispo. Good Lord, Sara Jane, cut down. What's the acronym for that?
Cal
She
Poly.
worked as a Cal Poly. There you go. See, I'm from Idaho too. Sara worked as a certified personal trainer and workplace wellness consultant before starting as a nutritional health coach with Natural Grocers by Vitamin Cottage. She's a self-described foodie, and I attest to that. She's got a passion for healthful cooking, and Sara Jane believes that what you eat affects how you feel, and how you feel will affect what you eat. And so with that said, what I want to do is go ahead and start up the presentation here. And Sara, talk to us. You go ahead and tell me when it's time to go to that next slide, but let us know what you're all about. Give us a little bit of a background, and then let's dive in.
Awesome. Yeah. So I got my degree from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in 2009. From there, I worked in corporate wellness. So I did health insurance and workplace wellness programs. When I moved to Idaho, I became a personal trainer because there wasn't a lot of demand up here yet for workplace wellness. And with the personal training, got to work a lot more with athletes and found that that's really, really what I like is people who are ready for a change. Because when you talk to somebody who's wanting to lose weight, they aren't always ready. They've been eating their whole life, therefore they're experts at it. So I really like to work with people who are ready to make a change, and that's why I love your blog and everything you're about, Troy, is because you have a want to perform better, which is really what good nutrition is about. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll introduce you to my farm.
Cool. No, I like what you're saying, because you're talking when you work with athletes, you're talking about individuals they're pretty darn educated. They understand already the benefits of eating well and putting good nutrients in their body, right? So you're able to take them to another level. Is that pretty much the case?
Exactly. They see the benefit of making the changes, and they truly want to make a change.
All right, we'll go through your presentation. I want to dive in on that, so I'm going to take some notes. Okay, so this is your farm?
This is my farm. The top left would be a picture right off my porch of some deer that came up a couple weeks ago. What you can barely see, the little blur, is one of my chickens. These deer were actually chasing my chickens and my duck around, which was kind of amusing to watch. But we live out northeast of Horseshoe Bend. It's actually called Jerusalem Valley. And we've got 10 acres that backs up to 27,000 acres. So we've got 10 acres of our own, but lots of room to roam. We have, let me see if I can get this right. We have 2 goats, 2 horses, 3 dogs, and 5 cats, and then I'm down to 14 hens because we've had some coyotes visiting lately, but I'm trying to take care of that.
More dogs. Get more dogs.
My Great Pyrenees was out that night, and he was sleeping on the job. So
that's obviously because you're whittling down the hens. So you start with the deer, then you go, like in times of famine, of course, you start with the deer and you eat them off, right? Then you go to the goats, then the ducks, probably the horses next, right? And if it gets really
we get about a dozen eggs a day. So with 14 hens now, we used to have about 2 dozen eggs a day. So eggs, I'm pretty sure we could survive on eggs and the milk, because those are Nigerian pygmy milking goats. So milk from the goats and eggs, I think we'd be pretty set.
Nigerian pygmy milking goats. It's cool. I've got a friend, Mark Warnke, who actually has alpine goats, and I had the good pleasure of getting to milk Raven, one of his milk goats, and I'm one of those babies that absolutely I did not do well on cow milk or formula. I mean, I was a lethargic baby, and my mom put me on goat's milk, and she said it was like literally within 24 hours, it was a complete game changer. And so can you kind of speak a little bit to goat milk?
It's just easier to digest, just different amino acid sets, a different protein set. So a lot of people don't have the problems that they have when they are trying to digest, especially our commercial dairy. If we think about an unhealthy animal, because if you milked your own cow, it might be a different story than if you, went and bought a gallon of milk at Winco, say. You're going to get a healthier animal is going to produce a healthier product. And what's healthier than a goat in your backyard?
No, absolutely. Well, and we can kind of stay on this one for a minute. I think this is a big deal because I'm not opposed to, offending the big players in this. And I know that somebody's going to come to my house and scalp me because I am in Idaho and there are a lot of dairies, and there's nothing wrong with them. I think they're great. And what we know, because it's researched and the studies are out there, is that hydrogenated and pasteurized milk, it really changes it. And the ways that the animals many times are treated and what they're fed also changes the nutrient composition of the milk. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. There's actually studies that show that the proportion of grass that cows are fed, right, grass is what they're supposed to be eating, but the proportion of grass that they're fed actually increases. And, we could show it on a graph. The more grass they eat, the better the fatty acid composition. So the more omega-3s versus omega-6 we're going to see in that, butter product or in that, fluid milk product.
Awesome. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of folks who are probably listening to this that are already pretty educated about the way this works, but cows aren't designed to eat grain. They're, like you said, they're free range. They eat grasses, and that's their natural state. So when they begin eating grains, they get the same issues really as an animal as we do as a human animal within their bodies, and then they pass on that particular fat to us in their milk.
Absolutely, yeah. If they're inflamed, just like if we were to eat something, we're not supposed to, it's going to inflame us as well.
It makes sense when you think about it, but a lot of people just don't think about it because we see those big billboards, everywhere about, your calcium in drinking milk. And again, I'm not bashing milk. I'm just saying a lot of people, and I'm one of them, it's inflammatory, causes massive amounts of mucus. I mean, I literally look like a blowfish the next day if I've eaten a lot of dairy, and I love dairy. I love it. So I've had to go to like a Parmesan or a grass-fed. And with that, with your dairy or with your goats, one thing that Mark was sharing and what I've studied is a lot of these little monkeys are out there, they're foraging on these plants that are medicinal, they're diversified. And so again, the nutrient content is tremendous with these animals, like you're raising them on your farm.
Exactly. Even what I feed my chickens, we get into, well, I don't want to feed my chickens soy, so we're fortifying and supplementing just my chicken feed so that we have healthier eggs.
I think it's so cool. Well, what do you see with the urban farm? And I hear more and more people talking about it. I think that I know for sure I'm seeing it happen a lot more. What do you see as the future of this, the next 5-10 years of urban farming, and what can a person do to actually, granted they don't have 10 acres, a lot of people live on a small lot in town. I'd love for you to kind of share where you think it's going, and then also how people can just scale it back and gain some of the benefits of having a farm.
You know, a couple hens in your backyard is a great way to start. And people don't realize how easy chickens are. You feed them, you water them, and they are happy as can be. You give them a box and they will put their eggs in them for you. So, I mean, the chickens are one of the easiest things. Obviously in town you can't have roosters, but you don't need roosters anyway. They're not going to give you eggs. So I think that a great place to start is with chickens. And then from there, you know, your simple gardening. I've done a great thing. This year we didn't do a big garden, but what I've been doing is actually trading out eggs for produce.
Nice.
The other thing I'm seeing is in Boise, they actually have new developments, which are actually, the idea behind the development is farm to table. So they actually develop the housing tracts based around gardening and community gardening. So your actual backyard will be a shared community garden, and they actually plan for food production within the community.
You know, that is so cool that is happening, because that's, again, for geeky people like, well, I'll speak for myself, like me, that just makes sense, man. If you don't have all the acreage, but you've got this space and you can do something, the more people that do it, the better off everybody is, right?
Exactly.
No, that's cool. Yeah, as far as like resources, Sara Jane, when it comes to urban farming, do you have some like books, websites, people where folks all over the place can actually go find out what's available to them and how to get started, even if it's like square foot gardening or something like that?
Yeah, there's a magazine that's one of my favorites. It's called Backyard Chickens.
Ooh.
And then that book, and I'm pretty sure they have a forum as well online. That's an amazing forum. The other book that I just picked up that I love is actually called Homegrown Paleo. I believe that's what it's actually called, is Homegrown Paleo. But it's all about how to produce your own food and how to eat paleo with really, really homegrown, really doing it all yourself.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Well, you know, and the thing that I had to get clear about, because some things that were keeping me from actually moving forward with it, and is I thought the quantity. It's like, man, there's not going to be enough. You know, I'm not going to have enough space. What's the point? And what we found is the herb garden that we created, Kimberly and Cash and my kids, you know, they're out there. It's actually the experience of it as well. Getting in the soil, planting the seeds, harvesting, even if it's just a little bit for a salad on a nightly basis. It's the whole experience, man. And I just think it's one of the coolest things and one of the most relationship, family bonding things a person can do. And you're getting more nutrients in the whole experience. So you don't have to have a bunch of space. You just need a few feet. And like you said, like these books.
Yeah, we have, I mean, that's a nightly ritual, is us getting, you know, walking out, me and my other half, walking out and going out to the barn and getting chicken food and, you know, feeding the cats while we're out there, and walking down to feed the horses and feeding the chickens and collecting eggs and then washing eggs. And then, you know, it becomes like a nightly routine, and everybody goes, well, every animal you add adds more work. And well, every animal you add is, you know, another part of the family in our book.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's cool. That's cool you say that. Now, granted, it's not for everybody, but like you are reaping the benefits and the rewards of the whole experience, which is really, really cool.
Absolutely. I always have eggs to eat.
So let's start a movement. You and I will just start. I know you already are. That's one thing that I didn't share with people to begin with, is you've done more presentations. You've done more cooking classes. You've spoken to more people about wellness and food this year than anybody I know. And I know a lot of people. And so I just high five you for your commitment to consistently, you know, sharing this with families.
I'm amazed. I've taught over 100 classes this year, cooking demonstrations in my demo kitchen in Boise. Not to mention the outreach, you know, that I'll do in the community as well.
You're a rock star, sister. That's why I'm so excited to have you. So what's this defining health? Because I think it's a broad spectrum. Lay it on us.
Yeah. Defining health, and that's kind of where we started, right? Is that, you know, I love to work with performance athletes, but their health is going to be defined differently. The soccer player's health is going to be defined differently than somebody who's, you know, in a hospital just getting a liver transplant, right? When we define health, it's going to be different for everyone. And I just like to bring that perspective because, you know, for me, you know, I'm pregnant, I'm building a baby, as you said. And for me, my health is the health of this baby. How do I build a baby? I'm not trying to go run a marathon right now. I'm trying to build a healthy, happy baby. But it's just bringing up that it's different for everyone. You're maybe trying to, go win a CrossFit competition or something like that. Whereas, everyone has different goals, I guess is what I'm saying by defining health. We all have different goals and reasons for fueling our body different ways.
No, that's awesome. That the cool thing, like you said, I know that you work with top level, like really high level athletes, but you also work with a lot of single parents, single moms who just want to keep up with the kids. And so what would you say is like the common thread between an Ironman triathlete and a single mother just wanting to, to be her best for her children? And what are the core elements that people can incorporate?
Core elements would be keeping your blood sugar balanced, which I'm definitely going to get more into, and then not being afraid of fat. I think as a nation, we are so afraid of fat, and it's such a terrible thing. So yeah, that's a great slide to transition to. You are what you eat. At a biochemical level, you are what you eat. Every food, every single piece of anything, water, that enters your body initiates a biochemical conversation, right? It's how your body's interacting with that food, and your body can't make something from nothing. So literally at a biochemical level, we are what we eat. If we choose to go eat that whole package of Oreos, or if we choose to go eat that whole head of broccoli, it initiates a conversation within our body.
And some conversations are loud and angry, and some are sweet and cool, right?
Exactly. Some are going to be, promoting inflammation. All the food that's on the right side of that slide, or on the junk food side of that slide, and then some of them are going to be inflammation modulating. Every food choice we make has an effect. I mean, we literally are what we eat.
I'm really excited. We could literally go for several hours tonight, and we won't do that. I know that because I want to get you back in here. But you talked about some amazing things, like the fat conversation. I've got a book here called The Big Fat Surprise, and it's the direct correlation. I'll let you speak to it because I know you know it extremely well. The correlation between heart disease and diabetes when they started really promoting low fat.
It is. It's amazing. I actually rewatched the documentary Sugar, the Bitter Truth the other day.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched it, but if you go to YouTube, it's one of the University of California series, and it's called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. And he talks about basically like fructose in your body and all the inflammation that it causes. And it's actually directly related to elevated VLDL, so your really bad cholesterol levels. I hate to say bad cholesterol because cholesterol is cholesterol, but the cholesterol that really is bad for you, fructose, right? What we find in fruit and we find in sugar or sugary drinks, being directly related to heart disease. And for so long we've blamed cholesterol, but cholesterol is really it's the fire truck. It's there to put out the fire, but we don't blame a fire truck for a fire. Right? In real life, the fire truck's there to put out the fire. And when we think about cholesterol, we think that because it's there, it caused the problem. But really, it's not what caused the problem. It's there to try to do the repair. It's there to try to fix the damage that we're doing with sugar.
I love that analogy that you just shared. It's not the problem. It's there to help. And yet it's been demonized as that is the problem. So, and frankly, we know what it's for. They can sell all kinds of, cholesterol pharmaceuticals and medications. And interestingly enough, I do a lot of coaching with men and women, but primarily with men to boost testosterone. Guys want to boost their testosterone. And I get it, man, because I sure want optimal levels of testosterone as well. And it's really fascinating that we'll have to go through and break down what it is that they consume on a daily basis, weekly basis, in their meal planning, their food. And it's a low fat, and I'm all for, vegetarians and vegans, but these guys have eliminated fats. They've eliminated red meats. They've eliminated a lot of the things the good fats that actually build cholesterol. And cholesterol is one of the primary things that boosts testosterone. It's, it helps all the the hormones and endocrine system. And so if you're literally cutting out fat on a daily basis because you think you're doing your body good, you're harming it. And I'd love to hear what you have to say about that, because I know you've studied
Yeah,
this.
I'm amazed at how many people I've heard of dealing with infertility issues. So women or men, right, dealing with not having the sex hormones that they need to build a baby, to have a baby, and they get their cholesterol checked and, it's 120, and they go, oh, it's great, my cholesterol is so low. But you need cholesterol to build the hormones, to make the hormones that are required for you to reproduce. So we've demonized the cholesterol to a point where now we're wondering why people are having problems, getting pregnant. I'm happy to say, getting pregnant, I was literally 1 month off of birth control, and bam, we thought we would try, and it happened a lot quicker than we expected. I'm more than happy about it. But I also eat, 6 to 8 eggs a day. How much cholesterol, how much good fat am I getting there? And I'm pretty much paleo. So think of all the healthy fats that are eaten. 50% of my calories come from fat. No wonder it was easy
Wow.
to get pregnant.
You see, and I know people who are not in this conversation like you and I are blown away. 50% of your calories from fat. But look at you. I mean, you are a healthy human being. And if, when people get the opportunity to meet you face to face, you just have that consummate, just healthy, athletic build. And like you said, you eat 5 to 6 eggs a day. And I'm sure it's not just the whites, right?
Not at all. I would never. Why would you waste the yolk?
I'm with you. Well, and those are some of the things that I've got some books and resources I can share about fat. I'd love to hear. Do you have any specific books that kind of pull back the curtain on the realities of the low fat epidemic? The catastrophe of the low fat marketing that happened in the 80s.
I love the book Good Calories, Bad Calories. How I can't remember Gary Taubes, I think, is who wrote that one. You already mentioned one, The Big Fat Surprise, which is newer, but definitely a good one to read. I mentioned 2 books at the end, but The Science of Skinny. She really dives into chemically, she was she was some sort of chemical engineer, and she looked at a box of angel food cake and was like, what am I putting in my body? But those are a few of the good ones, I would say.
Oh, those are great. I love that. So, and I'll put these in notes in the Hangout link for the recording of this as well. And, the thing that was on this topic, I'm really passionate about this because I've got 3 kids. I've got a young 4-year-old with Kimberly in my house, a wonderful guy. And we had, let's put it this way. Our kids for a lot of years would go out the door to school after having a big bowl of Cocoa Puffs, a big glass of orange juice, or a bagel. And they, their backpack would be chock full of granola bars. And then we would have these issues with parent-teacher conferences like, hey, man, your son, especially my son, Carson, is a wonderful guy, kinesthetic, loves the outdoors, amazing, truly a genius kid. But this is a kid who is so hopped up on carbohydrates that turn into sugar, drinking sugar. And he goes and he sits in a desk, and the teachers wonder why he's not paying attention. And this is what a huge point of contention between my children's mother and I. Because it was when people start to then whisper at school that, hey, your son's been labeled ADHD, literally in the documentation at a parent-teacher conference, the counselor saying, your son is labeled ADHD. Who gave him that? No doctor of ours, but that's your label. And so then the next step with this, and you can tell I'm passionate about this, is to medicate my son. That didn't happen, by the way. And I consistently, passionately make nutritious meals to get my family involved with. I was that guy who absolutely burned people out. I'd get on a soapbox, beat my chest, and people would tune out, and I would too. I've learned that, there's moderation, there's a time for it, and it's most important that we just share with people the realities of food and how my son, all of my children, when they eat good, nutritious foods, and their moods are stabilized, they're focused, they're fun to talk to, and they're a hell of a lot smarter than we are, so they've not been jaded yet. And so that's something that I've really seen, and one of the reasons I'm so passionate about it. If all we do is get families around a dinner table and eating good, nutritious foods, we're going to change the world from the inside out. Grassroots, baby. What do you think of that?
I love it. That's what needs to happen. Our food has become adulterized, is the best way to put it, and we're not eating real food anymore. We're eating food that resembles food. What you hit on there with sending your kid out the door after eating cereal. I don't know if the blood sugar roller coaster slide, the next one. There we go. So when we get up in the morning, it's natural for our blood sugar to rise. It's natural for our cortisol to be slowly elevating from midnight, unless we have constant raised cortisol. It's natural for, as we wake up in the morning, for our cortisol to rise and our blood sugar to come up. But when we do something like we have a bowl of cereal with some skim milk, right, because we're not supposed to have fat in our milk because fat's bad for us. We had some orange juice. We just had sugar. And then as adults, we add a stimulant on top of it. We add some coffee. So we have a sugar, and a stimulant. So our blood sugar spikes way up. And that's what this illustrates. Our blood sugar spikes way up. When our blood sugar is high, we're going to have an increase in our insulin, because our insulin is trying to down-regulate that blood sugar. Our body is going to try to burn sugar. When our blood sugar is high, we also have mood swings. We're going to have brain fog. And we're also, because we're trying to store all that sugar, we're going to increase our fat storage. Our body's not going to be burning fat, which is our body's favorite fuel. Now, because we've released insulin and we're trying to down-regulate all of that blood sugar, our blood sugar usually will actually drop below normal range. So if it gets too high, it's also going to get too low. And that's when our body releases cortisol to try to down-regulate the insulin. We're going to have an increase in cravings because our body's going to try to bring our blood sugar back up to where it was. We're going to have some fatigue, and we're also going to still have brain fog because our brain's not going to have the fuel it needs because our blood sugar is not in normal range. And that's what typically Americans do all day when we eat the standard American diet. We eat, cereal for breakfast, and then we get to work and we go, ooh, that, my blood sugar is low and that donut looks great. So they go and they eat the donut, and then they go out to lunch and maybe they have some pizza. And then, we get on this roller coaster of food all day, and then we wonder why we don't feel so great.
Yeah, you just described what, I know all of us, we see it around us. And I know that I actually participated in it as well. Back before, I really started to see the effects of this, realizing that I wasn't going to live forever. Damn it. It was, I realized that it was my responsibility to take care of my health. And I was that person, just like so many Americans, that at 3:00 in the afternoon, man, I was crushing 2 large rock stars just to stay coherent, and then I go home and then have time and presence and state of mind and energy to be present for my family. It wasn't happening. And frankly, it just pissed me off. And that's when I started to really do some research on this and realize that it might not have been intended consequences of the low fat craze, but I kind of think it was. And the pharmacology that's gone on, that let's just treat it with a drug instead of food. And the more I learned and the more I tried things out, I remember reading Suzanne Summers' Eat Great, Lose Weight. My friend Sonia Beakley, a gymnast at a very high level, turned me on to that. And it was just basically on food combining. And Suzanne Summers in that book, again, it's a great resource. It's come a long way, since then, but she had some great stuff. When you have a Cobb salad, you can put the fat, you can put the ham, you can put the bacon, you can put the fatty blue cheese on it, and you are golden because it's going to be energy, fat for the brain. It's hydrating because it's waterborne foods, not sucking things out of your gut. But the second you put a crouton on that sucker, it's going to go in your butt and your belly, right?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you add carbohydrates, my brother is visiting right now, and he tells me that he wants to lose weight. And I said we should go get burgers at Boise Fry Company, one of my favorite places to go. I get a burger with no bun every time I go there. And he was like, that's not even worth it. And I'm like, well, you just told me you want to lose weight. It's really simple. Don't eat the carbs when you're getting your burger. Burgers are great for you, especially when it's local buffalo. it's great for you, but people have a hard time getting rid of those staple things. For some people, croutons make the salad. For some people, the bread makes the burger.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So why is that? Because I know you've read Grain Brain, you've read Wheat Belly. What is it in wheat that causes people to crave it so much? Because it's freaking white flour, for God's sake. So why is it that people find themselves going to the cupboard and the pantry and just freaking out if they don't have it?
From my research, it actually activates opiate receptors in your brain. So it's actually just like alcohol or just like cocaine being addictive, bread can be addictive in that sense for some people. I don't know how many times I've had a client tell me that they can't live without bread. And I'm like, try it, believe me, you'll survive. But it's the same thing. It's as a drug addict that needs their drug of choice. That's what it comes down to when we talk about bread.
I've personally experienced it, and I'm telling you what, man, it is one of the most addictive things on the planet. And we'll put some stuff up in the notes of this so you can go see some videos that really you see for yourself, and you can go look at the research. And again, yes, I'm an opinionated guy. Most importantly for you, I know, Sarah, and for myself, is that people just be responsible for their own lives and certainly for their health. And always ask the question, how do you know that? And make sure people back it up, but go do this research for yourself. And it's so worth it that you then treat your body and your, like a science experiment, and your kitchen like your laboratory, and have fun with it. And you'll see for yourself. And I know that it was 3 weeks off of wheat that I literally was biting my fingernails. I couldn't sleep well. But after that third week, the cravings went completely away. I didn't have a puffy cheeks, puffy eyes. I started to see my abs, as a 40-year-old, well, as before then, but I had never had abs before. It was wheat. And the second I had a piece of toast, giving myself a prize for being so disciplined, with a little peanut butter on that whole wheat, Dave's Killer Bread is good stuff. Let's face it. And I'm thinking I'm doing a great thing, but instantly the cravings kick in, and just incredibly strong. So it's a powerful thing, and I think Wheat Belly is something that's really important for people to take a read, just so they can see what we're talking about. You agree?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of other foods. Spinach has some of the same compounds, but I'd much rather be addicted to spinach than to wheat bread.
Totally. I think that what you're talking about in the wheat is it's actually a partially digested gluten is glutamorphine. So this actually got glutamorphine in the name of the partially digested gluten. And so that actually acts as like an opiate, just like, like serotonin. There's molecular structures of things that actually fit just like a key into a keyhole in our brain, in our neural pathways, or rather our, help me out here, sister.
I don't know where you're going.
I'm thinking so much. Basically, it just mimics a molecule that so closely that it makes you feel like you were on a drug. It's like xenoestrogens. So there are things like BPAs, different things that in a plastic bottle, or in our cleaning products, or our hair products, our facial products, there are xenoestrogens. What are those? Well, they're not pure estrogens, but they act like estrogen in the body. So when you're drinking them, when you're breathing them, when you're absorbing them, literally in men, they're wondering why they're getting man boobs, why they're lethargic, why their sex drive is declining. And a lot of it's because they're getting so much estrogen-like substances into their body that they literally are feminizing. And so that's the same thing that happens with gluten, is when it's partially digested, it literally acts like a morphine, like an opiate in the brain, and you get the same type of response from that. So anyway, I geek out about that. I got a question for you on this slide before we move on, Sara Jane. I don't think a lot of people understand, because I didn't. I had to really look into, why is it that insulin, so when your blood sugar spikes, your pancreas creates insulin. Why is it that insulin, or rather, how is it that that's the catalyst that takes it from being energy and keeping you burning it as fuel versus putting it on your butt and your belly, because that's really what it comes down to. When you spike your blood sugar, insulin goes up, and as soon as that insulin hits that high levels, it just goes into storage. Why is that?
From my understanding, or the best way to explain it would be that it's a protective mechanism. If you have too high of blood sugar, you're going to cause damage to your blood vessels. If you think about like a sugar crystal floating around, I liken it to when you step in front of a soda machine and your feet kind of stick. You lift up your feet and they're kind of making that sticky noise.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? So it's
I do.
really sticky. Or if you think of rock candy, if you ever made that as a kid by hanging a string into the cup and it kind of makes those sugar crystals on the string.
Yeah.
We think about those sugar crystals floating around in our blood vessels. What do you think that does to them?
Yeah, that scrapes them up, hurts them,
It causes damage, and especially in our smaller blood vessels. That's why diabetics always have problems with their eyes. Those are really small blood vessels, and also their feet, their neuropathy in their feet. Those sugar crystals actually cause damage to the blood vessels. And that kind of actually comes back around to the cholesterol conversation we had earlier. When you get a nick in a blood vessel because of a sugar crystal, right, because your endothelial cells are, just one layer of cells thick. When you get a nick, your body uses cholesterol to repair the damage. So sugar crystals are actually floating around in your body and causing damage. Cholesterol goes there to repair, and that's why cholesterol gets the bad name. But when we talk about insulin is actually protecting your body, and that's why you're trying to store all that excess blood sugar so it doesn't run around causing damage.
I just learned something, and I love that. Thank you for that. That's the thing that I think when people get those visuals that sharp-edged sugar crystals cruising through your blood vessels, scraping them, causing inflammation, those are the problems. It's not the cholesterol. It's not the insulin. It's just doing what it's supposed to do. When you convert foods like breads, wheats that go into sugar immediately, or eat sugar, the pancreas is just doing its job. And our American standard diet, or standard American diet, SAD, has created this environment where not everyone, but the majority of Americans' pancreas is overworked, and it's just kicking out so much insulin that's what causes people to have to inject insulins, because they've burned it out. It's not an insulin deficiency. It's too much. It's a poor diet.
It is. It's too much sugar. And if we think about our ancestors and what they ate, in order for them to get sugar out of sugar cane, if you've ever looked at a sugar cane or even a sugar beet, how much fiber you would be getting out of that in order to get that amount of sugar, how slowly that would be released into your blood in order to get it. It's completely different than the refined sugar that is available today.
I love that. So could it be a conspiracy? Could it be about the money? I think that's so. I'm kind of joking, but it's really interesting that people have to understand how profitable it is that these foods, these processed foods, are. And when it comes down to a profit for a corporation who doesn't know you or your children's health, sadly, they've proven that they're going to take the profits over our health. So it's important for people to really understand that.
Absolutely.
Protein in a cool, like, Japanese looking symbol. What is that?
All right. So that's basically my visual of a chicken breast does not equal a bicep.
Damn it.
Right? All too often dealing with athletes, especially when I go talk with high school athletes, when we talk about protein, we talk about, they think they need protein. I actually looked at a university survey of a bunch of nutritionists, so people who are getting their degree in nutrition, and they were asked, okay, if you're doing endurance exercise, what type of fuel is your body using? 86% answered that it's carbohydrates. And then the next question was, if you're doing resistance exercise, what type of fuel is your body using? These are nutrition science students. 76% of them said that protein is what fuels their workout when you're doing resistance training. That is so wrong on so many levels. And when I talk to high school athletes, they think that, they just need to pack in the protein. And you talk to these bodybuilders and they just need to pack in the protein. And they walk around looking like they're Michelin man because they're so puffy.
They smell like hell. That stuff does not metabolize into something pleasant.
Exactly. But too often we think that protein equals muscles. And protein is very, very important for our bodies, but carbohydrates are what deliver the protein to your muscles. So I liken it, again, another great visual. If you're building a house, the protein would be the bricks and the carbohydrates would be the workers. So you need the workers to build the house. You can't just, dump a pile of bricks and expect it to be your house. You have to have workers come in and build. Same idea with our muscles. We need the carbohydrates to deliver the protein to our muscles. So while I'm all for higher protein diets, higher fat, you do need some amount of carbohydrates to move the protein to where it's supposed to go.
I love your visuals. Thank you for those, because I think those are, again, people don't understand really how their bodies work, and understandably so. But like what you're talking about is that carbohydrates are the transport mechanism. They're the workers popping in the bricks being the protein, building your muscle. That's cool. On that note, I found a really cool tip. I think I got this from Rob Wolf. And it was cream of rice. Rice is a very quickly digested carbohydrate. And what I started doing after heavy workouts, if I'm in that phase where I want to build muscle, I'll come home and boil up, a quarter cup of white rice, cream of rice, rather. It's kind of like cream of wheat, but it's rice. And I'll put it like a half a stick of butter in there. And I need to find out if this is an oxidizing nightmare, but it doesn't feel like it. And then I'll pour that over broccoli in my Ninja blender with some pink salt, some pepper. And I'm telling you what, man, it is amazing how good I feel. And contrary to coming home and just crushing a protein shake, nothing but eggs and bacon, the fats were great, but I didn't have the carbohydrates to transport that, like you say, and the gains that I got from that were obvious. So
that sounds amazing to me. I hadn't thought of using cream of rice because I'm not a big grain. I mean, rice would be considered a grass, but it's still kind of a grain, and I don't tolerate it real well, any grains, and rice for that matter. But I never thought of using cream of rice because it's already, initially it's kind of already digested for you. So that kind of seems like a great idea. And then broccoli, get all those micronutrients and inflammation modulating compounds in the broccoli too, which would be great for after your workout.
See, that's what's awesome. Like, you understand the nutrient content and the vitamin content of food. So I want to make it really clear for everybody who's listening now and will listen to this on the recording that Sara Jane she's my go-to girl when it comes to nutrition. And you're more than welcome. And we invite you to, as a matter of fact, to reach out to her. We'll have a link, or you can reach directly out to Sara Jane, and she will work with you personally based on your body, your food, your needs, and she will help design a nutrition plan for you. And I think that's one of the foundational pieces. That's why we're starting with, last week was detoxification, this week is nutrition, so that you can clean up, now you can begin to build. So I got a question here from Susie Hall about what types of carbs are appropriate. And I think we just described one. White rice is a good healthy carb. Can you name some others that you're fond of that you would recommend for families?
Any of your starchy vegetables are going to be great options. So your sweet potatoes, your yams, cooked carrots, beets. Trying to think of my list of starchy vegetables, but I choose to get most of my carbohydrates from vegetables because then you're getting all of the micronutrients with it. When I do my meal planning, I plan to have a starchy vegetable and a non-starchy vegetable at every meal. So I'm going to have, beets, which would be starchy, and then I'm going to have some spinach maybe, or I'm going to have some Brussels sprouts, which are non-starchy, and I'm going to have, a yam. So I try to plan to make, half my plate of veggies, but choosing a starchy and then also a non-starchy vegetable. When I have athletes who are trying to put on weight, I actually tell them to eat a sweet potato at every meal. Right? It's an easy way for them to add carbohydrates, but it's still a clean way to add those carbohydrates instead of reaching for Gatorade or something, potato chips or something that has oxidized fat.
Oh, I love that. So, and this is a big thing for people watching this, so you're putting a starchy food like a yam, a sweet potato, or a beet, but you're then putting it with a lot of cruciferous stuff with a lot of fiber, a lot of water, and just to help kind of balance that out, right?
Exactly. So I'm never just sitting down and eating a giant sweet potato by itself because my body just sees that as sugar. Even though, yeah, it's good sugar. Maybe even fruit you could consider, but you should still have something to balance that, right? If I go eat, banana, my body just turns that into sugar. So maybe if I'm going to have a banana, I'm going to make sure I have some peanut butter or whatever the case may be, balancing out the more simple carbohydrates.
I love that. I think that's so cool that, that I wanted to share, kind of back up just a little bit with that shake I was telling you about, and I'll post this up in the notes as well, that I'll actually, because fiber is such a big deal, and it's really challenging for a lot of people in the standard American diet to get enough fiber to keep things rolling, I will include chia seeds into that concoction that I shared with you, the cream of rice, the broccoli, and I also put turmeric in it because it's almost tasteless. But man, the benefits of turmeric, and you, I know, are an expert on that stuff. Can you kind of share, like with meals, how you can incorporate something like turmeric? First of all, share the benefits, and then how you use it.
So turmeric is great, obviously, for inflammation, to help modulate inflammation. The problem with turmeric is that it's not very well absorbed. So our body can't take it in very easily because it's such a large molecule. So the more you can intake of it, the better. I prefer to do a form of turmeric called theracumin. Dr. Marie has come out with that, and I actually just open the capsules and I can put them in my water, or I can put them in my food, or whatever the case may be for it, over using like a standard turmeric, like bulk spice. But that's just my personal preference. What was the other? Chia seeds, you said?
Yeah, chia seeds. You just, when I looked at the bag and I realized the fiber content in a tablespoon, I was blown away. I think it's like 6 grams of fiber per like teaspoon, actually. And
it's amazing. Some of the foods that we wouldn't expect to have a lot of fiber. One of my favorite that I add to a lot of things, and actually adds great flavor. You can add it to your chili. You could add it to, there's so many different things. But actual just pure cocoa powder, like cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, I think has almost 10 grams of fiber, maybe 7 grams of fiber, an amazing amount of fiber in cocoa powder. And it has, antioxidant effects and inflammation modulating effects. And it's amazing that I can add chocolate to my chili, but it actually brings out flavors in things. And also when like your shake that you made there with the broccoli, cocoa powder go great in that.
I'm trying it tomorrow morning. This is good stuff. So I love talking to you, Sara Jane. Anybody who knows us, I mean, Sara, she runs the show with the nutrition at Natural Grocers. And so I'll go in, and I'm there often. And man, if we catch one another, it's like, oh my God, we're not going to get much work done. But damn it, we're going to learn some things. And I love that about you. All right. Oh, I like this. Eat this, don't eat that. I love these types of lists. Talk to me.
Yeah. So go back to that last slide real quick.
Okay. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about this.
Again, this is my awesome slide of fat does not make you fat. So we have the lovely fat, excuse my French bastard, from Austin Powers.
You're on my interview. You can talk like that.
All right. So I think that when we think of fats, we think of getting fat. And that's the biggest thing that I have to hammer home to my clients is that fat does not make you fat. In addition to my, 6 to 8 eggs a day, that's Peterson's bacon there. I go through a package of that. Me and my other half, we just love our bacon. And Peterson's bacon I found is my favorite. It's a no nitrate, no sugar, no added anything bacon. It's a little pricey, but it is absolutely worth it. And then I cook everything in I cook my eggs in butter or coconut oil. But we associate fat with being fat. When you eat fat, you actually burn more fat. So people, like I said earlier, I eat 50% of my calories from fat. That's really easy to do when you're eating these awesome, wholesome fats. Butter makes your veggies taste better, but they also help you to increase nutrient absorption from those veggies. So when you add butter to your spinach, you're actually, like you adding the half a stick of butter to your broccoli, you're actually increasing the fat-soluble vitamins that you're absorbing from that. And even the antioxidants, so the things that are going to protect your skin, your eyes, your internal organs, everything, you're going to increase the absorption of everything because of those healthy fats. And that's what we've gotten away from. We've gotten so afraid of fat, but fat is vitally important for your body.
You know what I love about this, what I do is, because my passion is to learn and to teach. That's it. I just love it. And to hear it from different people, different perspectives, it just makes it more crystalline for me. Like what you're sharing is that again, we got the transports of fat, but then I had another individual share with me and say, look, if you're starving your body of fats, which by the way, your brain is fat, and your brain, by the way, takes, I believe, I forget the percentage of body weight, but it takes 60% of of energy in our body, our brain. And people wonder why they're so fogged out when they're cutting their fats out. They're eating nothing but vegetables and not incorporating seeds, nuts, fats. And that's why our bodies are designed to survive. And if we're starving it of fats, every bit of fat that you put in your body, especially if you don't know what the heck you're doing, so you're going to combine it with stuff that spikes your insulin, your body's going to go, oh my God, we have no idea when we're going to get it again. So let's store it. Let's store it here, store it there. Whereas, like you just said, and people can try this through a ketogenic diet or just, working with you, is the more fats you put in, your body's like, yeah, we're good. Lots of fats. Let's just release it. And it actually goes the opposite direction and starts to shed fat because you're putting so many good fats in the body.
Yeah, it's amazing. What you brought up for me, or what I thought of with that, is all these women telling me about pregnancy brain, about telling me about how they get this pregnancy brain, right? I can't think straight. I can't, I forget everything. And it's basically, you're building a baby. Your body's going to take from you what it needs to build that baby. And your brain is a great source of fat. So your body's going to take fat from your brain. It's going to decrease your memory. It's basically because they're not consuming enough fat in their diet. They're not getting enough healthy sources of fats. Their body's taking it from them, and not from the good places, and not from the places where we want to lose it, but from the places where we need it, because it wants the good fats, which are stored in our brain. I think that we, as a society, we're way too afraid of healthy fats.
Oh, yeah, this could open up a whole nother topic, which is body image in media. And one of the things that, and I'll say it here, and we can chat about it on another podcast, is the first thing, like in the detox phase, it's not just about getting the unhealthy foods out of your cupboard or detoxifying your liver so your liver can actually help build your immune system. It's about turning off the media. It's about stop looking at magazines that constantly say, Sara Jane, you're not quite good enough, but if you drank this, you would, and it's constant that people are told that they're not perfect, which is completely opposite of the truth. But marketing doesn't work unless you have an insecurity, and we've been trained that our bodies are supposed to look a certain way, and we're supposed to drive certain cars. But again, we're seeing like an epidemic of food with anorexia, bulimia, these body image issues, and I just think it's important to put that out there, that people need to, if they're going to pick up a magazine, if they're going to look at some media, look at some intelligent media of people who have backed this stuff up by research. And if you do that, and you start really getting the truth about this, first thing that will happen, it'll piss you off. And then you'll start looking at all the marketing, and you'll be hopefully a little bit repulsed by it. And then you get to go get an urban farm off in the hills and have a kick butt job and talk to guys like me, right?
I think a big thing that you're touching on with the body image is people don't listen to their body anymore. They listen to marketing. I see McDonald's on TV, therefore I want it, right? We don't go, am I hungry, or do I just want some sugar? We're trained from a young age to not listen to our body or to how we feel. So, somebody who's, my size, I'm 5'8", could weigh anywhere from 160 pounds down to 130 pounds and be considered healthy. If I was 130 pounds, I would not be healthy. But, my doctor told me that that's what I could weigh. We listen to the media, we listen to people around us, and we don't listen to our own body.
What you just said is I think so powerful. My girlfriend and my partner, Kimberly, she just spoke about that this morning, how we're so programmed outside of ourselves. Everything's outside. Get an opinion, read it, listen to the Kardashians. When the reality is our intuition is really an amazing thing. And we know, but we're just, like you said, we've just been trained out of feeling it, of the knowing of it. And I think that's one of the huge things that is partly a responsibility, is to remind people first and foremost that they came in with really amazing equipment and they already know. They just need to remember how to listen to it, how to identify it.
Yeah, our bodies are so smart. Our bodies know from the time we are born, they know how much we need. I actually just read a study, right? I'm doing all this, prenatal nutrition refresher since I'm having a kid, making sure that I'm going to feed my kid right. And if you want a book on that, there's a great book called Child of Mine, and it's all about infant feeding and nutrition for kids. But the idea is they did a study and they had they just monitored how much these infants intake. So they were free fed, right? They were allowed to eat, at certain periods of time. They just monitored how much. They just wanted to see how many calories these kids were consuming. And what was amazing is that the kids could actually regulate. So if they were sick and they didn't eat a lot one day, they would increase their calorie intake the next day. So if they didn't feel good, they wouldn't eat very much, right? Because they don't feel good. But then the next day, they would actually increase their calorie consumption. And kids on their own would follow their growth chart without any interference. So their bodies knew exactly how many calories they needed to consume. This was not a decision they made, right? Their bodies knew.
That is so cool. Back before we were domesticated, I love that. And just go back and listen to the kids, Yeah,
I mean, our bodies know. Well, even me listening to my body, being pregnant, I was, my midwife was telling me I need this X amount of protein and I need this X amount of calories, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna log my food, but I'm gonna log it at the end of the day. So what I did one day is I calculated all my calories. So, okay, based on my calculations, I need 2,300 calories and 80 grams of protein. And I just ate what I felt like eating that day, trying not to be conscious of how many calories I was getting. And at the end of the day, when I logged my calories, I was amazed to find that I was at 2,280 calories, and I had about 85 grams of protein.
That is awesome, because you're being intuitive.
And there was foods that I wouldn't normally eat, that I was like, it sounds good, so I'm gonna have it. I had a bowl of rice checks that day with whole milk. And the foods that if I wouldn't have eaten that, if I would have gone, oh, I'm not supposed to have that, I wouldn't have met my calorie requirements.
That's cool. See, and that's one of the things I think is really cool, as you and I have spoken about this stuff, and I know you see it, I see it, where people, like I did, got completely obsessive about, you got to be just paleo, you got to do it this way. When the reality is, this is life, and we're supposed to enjoy it and have these experiences. And so, like, you have some rice checks. The first thing in my mind is like, oh my God, she's eating cereal. But you're eating rice checks, doesn't spike your insulin levels. It's a good carbohydrate with whole raw milk, where you've got all the nutrients. So it's cool for people to hear this. And when people see you, it's like, really? This girl eats like that? Yep. And look at her. It's you can too.
Exactly.
So how about this? This is a cool slide. I went through this earlier, and I think this is a great thing that'll be beneficial for folks as they, they're in the kitchen. You gonna dive into this one?
Absolutely. I think all too often people go, oh, well, I heard, I should have this oil and I shouldn't have this oil. And so I just made my list. The avoid ones are all your omega-6 oils. So the oils that are going to promote inflammation. The ones to eat are your omega-9s or your omega-3 oils that are going to help modulate inflammation. So avoid, like the plague, trans fats. And just because the nutrition facts label does not say that it has trans fats in it, doesn't mean it doesn't. If it has less than half of a gram, they don't have to put it on the label. What they do have to put on the label is whether or not it has hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils in the nutrition in the ingredients list. So you really want to look at your ingredients list over looking at the nutrition facts label when you're looking for trans fats. And I think that's really helpful. Back before Oreo they've changed their formula, but when the trans fat legislation first came out and they had to label trans fats, Oreos, they actually changed their portion size from 4 Oreos to 2 Oreos just so they didn't have to put it on the label. Since then, I've props to Nabisco, but they've actually taken out the hydrogenated oils since then. But when they were in their prime, they actually just changed the serving size in order to show that it didn't have trans fats. So the food manufacturers are smart about those things. Trans fats increase the shelf life, which is why they use them, but they do not increase our shelf life.
I love that. Okay, so can you share again? So omega-6s, avoid. 3s,
yes.
Okay, and so what are the good ones that people should look for?
So any of your animal fats that come from healthy animals. So you want to look for organic, grass-fed. Try to buy local as much as you can when we think about animal fats or animal meat that has fat. Those are actually going to be your healthy fats. They're going to have a higher omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Any of those olive oil is great. You don't want to have heated olive oil because heated olive oil oxidizes it or damages it. Nuts and seeds are great. I almost said you don't want old nuts, but the truth of that is you want to refrigerate your nuts, and you want to have them. The fats in nuts do oxidize. So you don't want to eat ones that are really old. You want to keep them nice and fresh. Don't want to go buy, peanuts or something like that have been on the shelf for 3 years. The fresher, the better. Avocado has great healthy fats for you. Those are omega-9s. Coconut oil's got a lot of your medium chain triglycerides and medium chain fatty acids. But all the ones on the left on the eat side are going to be helping to modulate inflammation. When I say butter, I mean grass-fed butter, or organic butter, not just, Meadow Gold butter. I was in the grocery store this afternoon with my mom. They're visiting from California, and I told her to go grab Kerrygold butter, and she brought back Meadow Gold butter. And I was like, no. You got the gold part right, but grass-fed butter makes a big difference in the fatty acid composition.
Absolutely. And we'll have more information about why that is, but it's such a game changer. People, when they start to actually incorporate it, I know my friends Jason and Susie Hall out of Florida. We've got a lot of folks here locally, Ben Hamill, they've gone to a bulletproof in the morning, a bulletproof coffee, grass-fed butter, coconut oil, or an MCT, a medium chain triglyceride. And the reports back are just always just mind-blowing, so long as they kind of graduate into the fat content, so their body's fat adapted. But just the energy, man. People can test it that simply by trying a bulletproof coffee in the morning. We can put the recipe up in the show or the notes here. But you said
bulletproof coffee, you're actually extending the life of the caffeine in your body. So you're slowing down how quick the caffeine in the coffee acts. So you're not only getting energy from the fat, but you're actually slowing the caffeine down as well.
Oh, hallelujah. Sustained. So I was I asked you about a year ago, help me out here with the fish oils. I was looking for quality brands in Natural Grocer, and you broke it down even further into DHA. And can you kind of talk about that? And then we'll move through with this. But we know how important it is to have these good, healthy fats in our bodies. So if a person wants to go in from a supplement perspective, what do they need to look for on the bottle when they're buying this stuff?
For fish oil?
Yeah,
so for fish oil, what you want to look for is, and my senior thesis was on fish oil, so I'm the biggest fish oil nerd if anybody has questions afterwards. But you want to look for the higher amounts of EPA and DHA. So DHA is a 22 carbon chain, so it means it's a nice long carbon chain. And the omega-3s it's how we name them. So in your omega-3s, EPA, DHA, and ALA are all omega-3s. The length of the chain is what makes the difference. So DHA is, really highly concentrated in our brains, really highly concentrated to build new memories, for cognition, for thinking. So DHA is 22 carbons, EPA is 20 carbons, and then ALA is what we find in like flax oils is going to be 18 carbons. Now our bodies can go from a DHA, so from 22 carbons to 20 carbons and 20 carbons to 18 carbons, but building onto those chains is a lot harder. Not impossible, but not going to happen in most of us. It's not an easy process to make happen. So that's why we look for a lot more of the longer chains, and that's why I prefer a fish oil or a DHA supplement over just doing some flax. Well, yeah, flax is omega-3, but it's not the longer chains that our body needs.
I love it. So basically it's more complete, and our body doesn't have to go in and pull from other places to make it optimal. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, like our body can go from longer to shorter a lot easier than it can go from shorter to longer.
Oh, I dig it. Now, well, thanks for that. That's a big change when it came to the way I felt. I tipped over 40 3 years ago, and I upped my supplementation, and it was just, and again, I always treat myself like a science project, but I really saw my memory slipping. I had a lot of stress, business, life, kids. Not that my kids are stressful, but running them around and trying to be a great father can be a little bit. And when I started really upping my fish oil and my fats, I was blown away at how my memory, my cognition, it improved so much. All right, so these are your books. This is what you're talking about: The Science of Skinny and Practical Paleo.
Yeah, some of my favorite books. Practical Paleo is more of a cookbook. But Diane Sanfilippo is a fellow nutritionist who has done an amazing job in her books with tons of beautiful pictures. And I mean, her books in Practical Paleo, she draws out, this is so funny, she draws out poop, and she draws out what your poop should look like. And she has these little poop characters that help you remember, if you're eating this is what it looks like, or if you're, what you're doing. And she really explains why paleo and avoiding grains and inflammation in your gut and what all of those things mean. But she explains it in a very practical way, which, if you haven't noticed, I love to have practical explanations for people, because we're eating real food. We're not getting fed through a tube, in a hospital.
I love that. That's so, yeah. I like the way that you're so practical and just very logical about this stuff. And it's really, you talk about poop. One of the things that I'm grateful for is that more people are not so squeamish about this. It's like these are bodily functions that happen, hopefully at least once a day, but yeah, people don't talk about it. And I think it's important that people understand their gut health, and we'll save that for another conversation. And it's important that people understand that. You're talking about like these meals. People say, well, I don't like the taste of broccoli. And I heard a doctor, in fact, this morning on an interview, he said, people say, I don't like the taste of broccoli. He says, well, you're probably not going to like the taste of chemotherapy either. And it really comes down to that, because people think that they're getting away from something. I always felt like, well, I'm just getting away with it. We're not getting away with it. It's cumulative. It stacks up over time. And eventually it's going to catch up. And sadly, like with heart disease, 80% of people don't realize they've got any type of heart issues until they have a heart attack, and it's too late, or things are radically compromised. And so again, just helping people to become mindful, to understand that nobody's coming. The only people that are coming are the marketing agencies, the food corporations, that, those people, the chemical companies, they're coming for you. But for your health, ain't nobody coming. That's our responsibility. And so great books. I don't have either one of these, but I do have a book, the 2014 Best Paleo Recipes. I'll put it up on our site. I gathered them and I put it into a cool format. So this
Awesome.
is you, Sarah. I don't know how many people are like us, but like us, you and I know we could talk for a couple more hours, talk about leaky gut, all that stuff. But we won't do that tonight, because I want to have you back. And I know that you're incredibly busy. You've got family in town. You're building a baby, and I'd love to get you back one more time prior to you having that sweet little baby. And I want to let people know that along this journey, you've got someone like Sara Jane, who's a nutritionist, knows her stuff, and she's pregnant. And so she's documenting the whole journey along the way of her pregnancy, what she's eating, how she feels. And she's creating a course, basically, or not basically, literally a course. And I'll let you share, your time frames on that. But she's going to share this information with you, so that those of you who are looking to have children in the future, or folks who are, you can share this resource with them. It'll be a huge gift. You know, a lot of women, when they go through pregnancy, they lose their hair, they get wrinkly, they lose their memory, like Sara was saying. That's a nutritional thing, guys. And this is going to be a huge gift to people. So Sara, you want to kind of share a little bit about your information here, where people can find you, and about your course?
Yeah. So my course, yeah, I log all my food, seeing how I feel. I was really frustrated getting pregnant with that there weren't a lot of resources for me, even as a nutritionist, to figure out what I'm supposed to be eating right now. And talking with my midwife, there's all these generic recommendations. You should have 100 grams of protein. Well, you didn't even ask me how much I weigh. How do you know that that's that's what I need individually? So it really stemmed from a frustration of not having a lot of good resources and having to do a lot of my own research in order to figure things out. And I don't think it should be that hard for everyone. So I think that's where that prenatal nutrition course is coming from. I also have my other big passion is youth athletes. Me being an athlete and growing up, man, I think of how much faster would I have been if I would have known not to eat that protein bar between races. If I would have known, to have a couple honey sticks or how to fuel my body properly at those all-day tournaments. So that's my other real passion, is the youth athletes and helping them, and not just youth athletes, but I mean all youth are really athletes when they're being active, but helping the kids and helping their coaches to understand what's going to fuel them right, and their parents and everything like that. So I'm coming up with the youth sports course, and then also prenatal nutrition, just to end the frustration.
I love it. Sara, you are a teacher, and the cool thing is you're an activist. You hone your craft. And I love the fact that you're a member of Toastmasters. You've learned presentation skills, you've learned, and you're very good at it, and how to organize causes in communities. And then you're out there beating the streets. You're doing this stuff, man. 100 presentations, cooking presentations already this year. And I just want to tell you how much I respect you. I appreciate you being a part of this. And by all means, everybody, go check Sara out on her Facebook page and communicate with her. She can point you to some amazing resources. This is also an individual who, outside of nutrition, her other passion is helping people manage their time. She's been a huge help for me. So I'm probably like, one of her biggest frustrations, but she's been so resourceful and so helpful to help me organize my time between my personal wellness, my family, my business, because a lot of us get confused about that stuff. It's so overwhelming. So I'll plop down on the couch and watch, the Kardashians. That's not a good thing. So she's helping me and a lot of people around the country to manage their time so they can get the juiciest, most fulfilling experiences where they're at. And so again, not just nutrition, be sure and check her out. And Sara, I want to thank you again. We're going to start rolling cameras. Don't know if it's going to happen before baby or after baby, where literally we'll have some classes online where Sara can show you how to prepare some amazing meals. So any final thoughts, Sara, before we sign off?
Nope, just there's my contact info. Feel free to reach out if you have a question. That's my cell phone, so you can actually shoot me a text. That's usually the best way to get a hold of me. If I don't respond right away, I do go back and look at my messages, so I will get back to you. Again, like you mentioned, I'm hanging out with family this week, but for the most part, those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Wonderful. Last thing, I know that we do a lot of lab testing, a lot of food sensitivity testing, like literally blood, saliva, and you have a preferred way of doing food sensitivity, and that is the elimination diet. So I just want to put that out there for folks who are part of this, that if they want to try that path, you're the gal. So Sara,
Absolutely,
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I want some chicken eggs, and I just wish everybody a great night. Here's to your wellness. Ultimately, leave with this: you're responsible. You can do it. You're capable, and you've got a lot of support out there. So reach out to the people who know what you want to know, and go serve on them. Get it done. Appreciate you guys. Have a great night. And with that, we will conclude this interview. Sara, have a great night. Enjoy your family.
Thank you.
Take care.